Welcome to the Stay Grounded podcast, brought to you by Java Press Coffee Company. My name is Raj Jana, and I'm the Chief Brewing Officer here at Java Press, where we help people make daily happiness a priority using the coffee we love. I interview people from all walks of life to discuss happiness, success, fulfillment, and ways to infuse it all into daily life. I want to dissect different thought processes and turn them into powerful insights that empower you to stay grounded and make daily happiness and fulfillment a reality. So thanks for joining me today. Now, let's get to grinding. Hello, everybody. My name is Raj, and thanks for joining us on the Stay Grounded podcast today. I want to introduce you to our amazing guest speaker today, Miss Lauren Raja. How are you, Lauren?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here with us. So before we get into the interview with Lauren and talking about her amazing story, I want to give some context to what we're doing here and what the Stay Grounded podcast is. Stay Grounded podcast, we really want to talk about daily fulfillment, happiness, and how to have more of it in daily life. So we do everything we can to bring on amazing speakers who have gone through a myriad of experiences throughout life and seem to just keep on trucking on and keep winning. And so Lauren Tater Day, Lauren, I'm going to actually let you give a short bio, what you do, what your company is, who you are, where you live, and we'll run from there. How does that sound?
Sure. So my name is Lauren Raja. I started my own pajama line called Justin Jean Pajamas about a year ago. And the reason for the name is I lost my husband about 3 years ago in an accident while we were in Santorini on vacation. He drowned while we were on a boat trip with his sister's wedding party. It was his sister's pre-wedding boat cruise, whatever. So it's been a little crazy. So anyway, I lost him about 3 years ago. Jean is my late grandmother. She was a seamstress that helped raise me. And, I spent my whole life watching her make the most beautiful outfits and, Barbie clothes and my communion dress, you name it, prom gowns. So that's where the clothing influence came from. So after losing my husband, it took me about 6 months to kind of get on my feet, but I resigned as a math teacher. I was a middle school math teacher for 10 years. And I decided that life's too short to not follow your dream. So that is when I got to work, completely clueless, had no idea what I was doing, but it kept me busy. And what pushed me was, being able to honor two people that meant so much to me. So that's when I decided to name my company Justin Jean. My logo is their actual handwriting, which makes it, ties into my whole message of being authentic. And it's almost like I subconsciously created something fun and happy to get myself out of that deep depression. They have 3 ruffles on the back, and I created a hashtag called Rock the Ruffles that kind of encompasses what my brand is all about. Each ruffle stands for a core value I think is very important to live by, authenticity, integrity, and passion. And all pajamas have a heart patch sewn on the sleeve to kind of further encourage people to live their dream. So in the past, October was when we officially launched. And I started actually selling. It took me a year before that to set everything up. But since launching, we've sold about 1,300 pairs. Currently, we offer sizes 6 months old up to women's 2XL. So we're expanding now. But back then, it was just 2T to women's extra large. And so things are good. I didn't expect it to be as good as it is, but it's amazing the response you get when you put your whole heart into something and you show people that you love what you do and you put your, passion into it.
I think that's amazing. Firstly, congratulations on all the success you've been having. And I think your story is so incredible. And I think it's such an important story. You said something very specific right now about how you created something to make you happy and help you through that. So can you describe, what did your routine look like when you were just starting out? Like when you went from the space where you were trying to get back on your feet, like how did you get yourself back on your feet and moving towards this thing that was going to make you really happy?
Well, in the beginning months after losing my husband, I came home and I just didn't know what to do with myself. I kind of just sat in darkness and just stared at the wall, literally. And then I don't know what came over me, but, I guess it was slowly, but it was sudden, but it was, gradually over a few months. I started to channel my late grandmother. I called her Mama Jean. And I thought, what would she do if she were here? Because there's nothing stronger than the power of example, right? So growing up, I saw her overcome some crazy, challenges, and I watched her and how she handled it, and she never gave up. And she drank lots of coffee too. So I got to work. I started drinking coffee, and I organized my home, and I started coming up with some crazy inventions. And my girlfriends thought I was crazy, but they were happy I was getting out of bed, And then I don't know, it's kind of a blur, but I just remember thinking, I'm going to create pajamas, and they're going to be polka dots to start off with, because my husband loved polka dot socks. He was always dressed perfectly with his suit and his crazy socks, and he loved the polka dot socks. So I made them all polka dots and ruffles to remind me of the innocence as a child, to bring that back. And it just kind of evolved from there. But I guess my routine was, I just did that 24/7. I really I didn't want to go out. I kind of just stayed in my apartment and secluded myself. It probably wasn't the best thing to do, but it took me being at my lowest point to realize what I really wanted to do in life. And if it meant, 6 months of staying in and focusing and learning and, creating the pattern for my pajamas and things like that, then so be it, So that was my routine back then. I really didn't have one in the beginning. Then once I kind of had, I created my website and things like that. Like I had everything in place. I realized, okay, you're unhealthy. You need to start taking care of yourself now, So I started exercising. I lost the weight that I put on. My cholesterol was high. It went down. I started to kind of take care of myself a little bit more. And I still struggle with that, like the exercise piece. I need to, I get so involved in the business, and I forget to, take care of myself more so physically than anything. But yeah, so that was my routine then. Now I'm kind of more grounded, if you will. I have, I wake up, I have my coffee, I go for a 2-mile walk with the dog. And then, I usually pack up my orders at night. And during the day, I'll answer emails, come up with some plans like for, Facebook ads and things like that. So
that's wonderful. No, that honestly, that was great. I always find it so crazy. I remember when we started Java Press, I went through this phase where I just didn't want to do anything but work. You just get so excited about something you're doing, and that becomes the thing that makes you really happy. And then eventually along the way, you realize that you're an engine too, and you need to grease the engine and keep it fueled to keep doing all those amazing things you want to do. So I'm glad you found your rhythm. So right now you drink coffee every day. Is that what I heard you say?
Oh yes. I drink coffee all day.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's my kind of girl. What kind of what kind of role does coffee play in your life? Is it something you look forward to every day? Is it something that does your day start without it? What kind of role does coffee itself play in your day-to-day life? And how does that help you get through a lot of the things that you're trying to accomplish?
Well, it's funny because I kind of view coffee as I view my pajamas. I know that sounds weird, but it brings me comfort. And when I wake up in the morning, my friend Tanya, she lives in Miami, but whenever she comes to visit, she's like, I'm not talking to you until you have your coffee. It's part of my routine. It's part of my life, and it brings me comfort, and I can't imagine life without it.
I'm going to have to agree with you on that. And I think a lot of our listeners can too. No, that's great. And I'm, like I said, I'm really happy that like you look great. I'm glad you're in this space where it looks like just things are starting to tick. And, and I know how that feels, especially when your business is starting to do well, and then the parts of your life start to sort of follow the business, and everything just starts to kind of connect in a really, really fruitful way. So it looks like that's where you are, and that makes me really happy to hear. So,
thank you, Raj.
Yep, absolutely. So, I want to touch a little more on like your just how you are right now, and some almost like some daily non-negotiables, like as you were going through a lot of the things you did as you were getting your company started and you were getting everything going. You said you channeled your late grandmother. Could you explain a little more about that? I think that there's a really powerful lesson somewhere in there.
Sure. For
people who are going through a tough time.
When I say I channeled my grandmother, I guess what I'm referring to more or less is just her example. I lived with her since I was born. So I think the best gift she gave me was just how she reacted to situations, but didn't ignore them. She would show her emotion, and she would communicate her emotion, and she would cry while she was working or doing whatever, but she never stopped. She never stopped. I mean, she didn't go out or do much, she stayed home a lot, but she never stopped cleaning or sewing or whatever her project was. She just kept going. I remember when she was diagnosed with cancer, I would go pick her up in the hospital. She would be pulling out the IV herself. She didn't want to wait for the nurse to come. And I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? Yep. She's like, I have to get home. I have laundry to do. I have this to do. I have that to do. And it was like no nonsense up until her last days. It was hard to watch her, at the end, because she couldn't even hold a cup of coffee. And she loved her coffee. And I'll never forget, it was like a week before she passed, and she was holding her coffee and she dropped it. And she was so self-sufficient, and, no nonsense, no excuses. But like I said, the key point is she showed her emotion. She acknowledged her emotion. She didn't hide it. And you know what I mean? Like she would show me that she was sad. She would communicate that, but she didn't let that stop her. So when all of this happened, I live in a town called New Hope, Pennsylvania. My family lives, most of my family lives about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from here. So I'm more or less by myself with my dog. So a lot of things I do by myself. So when I was at that point, I just thought of her and her strength, and I just used that to keep going. And I remember I was having a hard time, and someone had said to me, when a traumatic event happens, like I watched my husband die right in front of me, that's almost harder than the actual loss. It replays in my head a lot. But when your brain suffers something traumatic, it's hard to bounce back. I was forgetting to do simple tasks. I was forgetting silly things. So I remember I went to Staples and I bought like a big whiteboard calendar, like a blank whiteboard. And I just wrote down every little thing I had to do. I just didn't give up. And, I have to give that credit to my grandmother, because she was my number one role model, and that's what she would have done. And I watched her do that. So
that's incredible. Did you live with your grandmother?
I did. Yeah. I lived with her.
She seems like a really sweet lady.
She was adorable. She was so much fun. She was cool. Even in college, I would come home on the weekends. She would be like, what are you doing home? You should be out with your friends. I would bring friends home. Like, she was just so cool and so fun. She was real, And I love that about her.
I think it's powerful that you bring so much inspiration. Like even the way you describe your grandmother is so clear. Like you remember a lot of the things that she did, and you brought that parallel back to your life and how you could use that. For somebody who's going through something like this, or somebody who's been in a similar situation, how do you help them see this? Is there any advice or anything you can give to help them find this clarity in their role model, whether they're next to them or not?
So if I could give advice to them, if they don't have a Mama Jean, is that what you're like? Yeah. Is that what? Okay. So the number one thing is to forgive yourself. I remember in the beginning, I was really hard on myself, and I was like, I'm not capable. I'm not doing what I was doing before my loss. I wasn't as efficient, and I still struggle. I always think to myself, I'm like, man, if it was before the loss, I'd probably be a lot more efficient. So I have to forgive myself daily. And I think that's huge, not to take life seriously, forgive yourself, don't take life seriously, and just make every day count. I actually have that. I'm looking at it right now. In my kitchen, I have it written big, make today count. There are days I get millions of things done, and there are days that I get one thing done. And I'm okay with that, but just to have the confidence to go for it. Life's way too short to worry about the outcome. You just have to go for it and see what happens. And you know what? There's a lot of chances I took that I would have never taken, sending pajamas to celebrities and things like that. And they actually wore them, I posted them on Instagram, and I'm like, I'll never forget. I don't mean to go off tangent, but I think this is a good point to make, that, to take chances, because most of the time it's going to work out. I think people make up their mind in their head before they even do something, and, or they're scared of being let down or whatever. But just a random, story. I sent pajamas to Perez Hilton, and actually for his mother and his daughter. And he ended up wearing them they went to a party in Los Angeles, and he wore them with his daughter in public. So he posted all these photos of the pajamas. He posted a video and telling his mom he wore her pajamas, and tagged me. And it was just so sweet. I wrote him a letter. And the reason why I sent to him was because his mother and 2 children live with him. It's kind of the same dynamic, as me growing up with Mama Jean. And so I wrote to him and I told him the whole story, and it's just cute. But it's something if I didn't try, I would have never known, So I guess my advice would be to just take chances, be confident in yourself. I was a middle school math teacher. I never thought I'd be able to do what I'm doing. But if you work hard and you study and you have that passion inside of you, you can do anything. You have to want it. That's all.
I love that.
And surround yourself with good people. That's huge. Sorry.
No, that's, like I said, this is incredible. So do you journal, or how do you keep track of, you just said you looked at a little quote that said something about forgiving yourself. So do you give yourself daily reminders like that? And how do you help yourself remember? I know you said you had your whiteboard. Do you still use your whiteboard, or is there something you do to just keep yourself on track each day?
I do. Usually the night before, I'll sit and I will make a list of things that need to be done for the week, a big list. And then I prioritize and I write the 5 things. I try to be realistic. The 5 things I want to get done that day, that's, most important. But to hold myself accountable, I make a list. I love reading, I'll read random articles online about just being an entrepreneur and, things like that. And like I said before, I surround myself with good people. I have, when tragedy occurs, you realize who your true friends are. And I'm lucky enough to have a small group of friends who encourage me and help me, and they're everything to me. And without them, I wouldn't have, I would have, but they really supported me and encouraged me through the difficult time. And just keeping positive people around you, like-minded people that get you, I think is huge. Kind of stay away from negativity or anybody that's going to tell you, no, that can't happen. But so it's just staying as positive as possible, but at the same time, realistic and, being forgiving of yourself. You can only do so much.
That's good. A question just off of that.
Sure.
For me, I've always found that positivity and happiness are always linked back to that silly little thing called gratitude, for me, at least. The more grateful I feel, the better I feel. So what kind of role does gratitude play in your life? It sounds like you're very grateful for the friends and positive influences you have. And
I am.
So what kind of role does it play? And is it something that you practice daily, weekly, whenever you have time?
I wasn't always grateful. I think I'm more grateful now than I was before my loss. I could tell you, after Justin passed, my husband, I started to realize, I started to notice things in nature, the birds, the trees, just little things like that I'm like, I don't know. It's like my whole world opened up. I started to appreciate friendships. I started to appreciate phone calls. Just things I took for granted before, I guess you could say. So it plays a huge role in my ability to start this business. In the beginning, I blamed everybody. Like I said, it took me about 6 months to kind of snap out of it a little bit. But I blamed, it was everybody's fault for my misfortune, and that got me nowhere. Once I let that go and I realized, that's not the case. That's when the magic started to happen. That's when I was able to be positive and create something beautiful and inspire people. I get a lot of emails, just say, from widows, from people who are suffering, saying that I inspire them to keep going, which is really cool. And, to kind of tie into the question you had asked earlier about, if someone doesn't have a Mama Jean, that's why I created this too. I created a cool product, but I also wanted to show people that things can happen even at the worst time of your life. Sometimes it takes being at your lowest point to be here. I mean, there's a lot of instances where I'll be sitting at my laptop and there's just tears. Like I'm sobbing and just grieving, it comes in waves. You never know when it's going to come. Or if I do something I think's really cool and I'm like, oh my God. And then just the waterworks get turned on but I work through it, but yeah, so I really just want to, use this to inspire people to get out there. I think about if this business didn't exist right now, where I'd be, and it kind of scares me because this is what keeps me going, So I guess I received one gift from this loss to be able to help others.
That's beautiful, Lauren. Gratitude and forgiveness. So I'm learning so much from you right now. So just to even see this, gratitude and forgiveness helped you turn all the negatives that were happening in your life, all the blame, all of just anything that tied you down. It helped you let it go and turn that into something positive.
Yes,
it allowed you to start
yes. It allowed me to help others, and I channeled and I had a lot of anger too. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. But I had a lot of anger and I had to learn to channel that anger in another way. So I kind of channeled that into helping others too, through the business. I guess any kind of emotion I had, I just used to help others. And there's no better feeling when you're helping somebody.
I have to strongly agree with that. Yeah. That's, we work with Make-A-Wish. And so we grant wishes for kids who are going through a tough time. And I'll never forget our first wish. When we granted a wish, we sent a 3-year-old kid with 5th stage liver cancer to Disney World. And like, yeah, it was awesome. I mean, they put him in a little stretcher and they they just rolled him around and he met Mickey, and it was,
oh, how cute.
It was but heartbreaking at the same time. But yeah, it was awesome to be able to do that. And I definitely resonate with just how you feel and how you're using your business to really help people. And that's as a byproduct, it's also helping you just become better, become stronger,
I agree with that.
Which is awesome. So now I want to talk a little bit more about your actual business, and now you're here, and now you're doing this, and a mindset for success. How did you develop your mindset? Like I said, like it took a lot of time to get used to forgiveness or being grateful or getting into this positive space. Were there any resources you used, any mentors, any books you read that helped you sort of just get yourself in gear and keep you in a really positive space as you kept growing your business?
Not really. I mean, I have a few friends who gave me awesome advice, daily. I drove them crazy, like legit crazy, like 3 a.m. What do you think of this? What do you think of this fabric? It was just, but they were just so happy that, to help me because they saw how happy it was making me, but, I guess my biggest resource was my friends. I have a lot of very smart friends who supported me and helped me and encouraged me and told me, Lauren, no, that's good, because I was doubtful, especially with like the business side of things. I had fun designing the pajamas, and that wasn't easy. But I remember, like, once that was kind of finalized, I'm like, what do I do now? I have to sell these. How does that work? So that's when I kind of reached out to my friends, and they, and I did some research, mostly online, things like that. But there was nothing like really specific that I did. I did have a friend. I still have the friend who was actually starting a business the same time as I was. And we would bounce ideas off each other a lot, which was really cool. So I guess my biggest resource was friends and other people.
That's amazing. I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. I mean, you're pretty amazing yourself. So there's a lot of, most people don't take negative things that happen in their lives and channel it in a way like you have. And I think that's there's such an important lesson for so many people in that. I mean, you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you use what happens to you. And
thank you. It all revolves around love. Like my good friend Tanya always says, like, there's so much love put into these pajamas, and people feel that, and it comes from the love that I received from Mama Jean and from my husband. He was so supportive of anything I wanted to do. He was just so sweet. I did bring up the idea about, like, before he passed, about honoring my grandmother in some way by starting some type of, clothing line. This is while I was teaching, and he was awful. He was so happy and so excited for it, which kind of pushed me even more, because I knew he backed me up with that idea. But just the love they showed me, the unconditional love, pushed me daily, and even through the painful times, that's what really pushed me through. I did it for myself. This is something I enjoy, but I did it for 2 other reasons. My husband died at the age of 33. He didn't get to show the world. He was just beginning. He was a hard worker. He was smart. He was just awesome. So through this business, I want to, also let people in on what kind of person he was, which kind of ties into the message. He was awesome. And my grandmother was the same. I used to say that, because of the way my grandmother was, that's what allowed me to appreciate my husband so much, because they shared the same values. And I'll never forget the first time they met. It was so cute. They just instantly, just started laughing and joking around. And my grandmother loved when Justin would come. It was really cute. They had a special bond. But, and the other reason is because my grandmother was a seamstress. And I remember as a kid looking through Vogue magazine with her, any type of fashion magazine, and she would point to things and say, Lauren, you know how easy that is to make? And I would look at her and I'd be like, no, I don't. But as I got older, I'd say, Mom, I wish I had like the funds. I was too young, but like I'm like, you should have your own clothing line, or you should have your own, just something. She was so awesome. So this, that was always in the back of my mind anyway. I always wanted to do something in honor, like of her, So those two things are important as well, on top of my passion. So.
Got some incredible inspiration in your life.
Yeah, very lucky.
Yeah. Well, no, it's like I said, it's refreshing. There's so many businesses out there and so many different people doing different things, but it's so refreshing to hear how connected you are to your product, and how yourself is shining through the design. And correct me if I'm wrong, your husband made the logo. Did he?
So Justin is my husband's name, and that's his actually I got that from his luggage tag. That was the signature on his luggage tag.
That's awesome.
From our trip. So I copied that. And then the Jean part is my grandmother's actual handwriting. So that's awesome. Yeah. I think I remember reading that on your website, and I was blown away. I thought that was just cool to see that, and amazing. Okay, so now that you're here, and now that you're achieving success and you're growing your company, how do you stay grounded? I mean, how do you keep yourself going? Because you're gaining so much traction now, right? I mean, but you still seem like you've got like such a purpose about you. How do you nurture that purpose and daily when there's probably so much potential to just take this to the moon and become this huge pajama company? I mean, how do you stay so grounded in what you're doing and in how you're doing it? Well, I can tell you, it's that is the $1 million question, and it's been on my mind for months now. We're coming up on our third season. And just before I jumped on with you, I was packing up orders, and I have about 25 orders from the past 2 days. And I'm like, how do I do this? Because it takes time, because I personally write out each one and I thank everybody. And I love that. I never want to stop doing that. So I guess it's a big decision I have to make, on what I really want this to be, because packing 25 orders, I take my time, everything I do is like, every detail is looked at and, made sure it's perfect. So this will take me a good 2.5 hours to pack up. And, it's time. I was just saying to friends yesterday, it's time for me to hire, maybe create a little team here, because I do have to grow, maybe not as big as, you had mentioned, but I do, if I want to grow at a natural pace, I do need help. I can't personalize everything and design the pajamas and do the marketing and the website. I do my own website. I'm the photographer. I edit the photographs. I do my Instagram. It's just, my email marketing is all me. It's starting to get, a little bit too much. So, I think I don't want to be a super big company. But I would like to make a living honoring them. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but if I want to have a life, I need to hire some employees. Or I'm not gonna, in the beginning, like I had said, it was okay because it was keeping me busy. But now it's like I'm kind of coming out of the grief and I'm realizing, okay, I kind of want to have a life outside of, my business, which I think is important. I recently went away for a few days and I came back and I was reluctant. I did not want to go. And when I came back, I felt great. I felt better than ever, which made me realize the importance of taking time for yourself and clearing your head, because I was working way too much. So
are there things you do
where I am?
Are there things you do? Are there things you do every day to make yourself happy or help you stay grounded?
I love, and this is going to sound crazy, but I just love being outside. I love walking with the dog. I live in a beautiful town. It's right on the Delaware River, right on the border of New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And very scenic, beautiful, very peaceful. I love walking my dog when the weather's really nice. That's really all. I love being outside. I love being with my friends. I actually have, my best friend lives around the corner and she has 6 children. And I love going to their house and just being with the kids, because I was a middle school teacher for all those years and I miss being around children. So I do enjoy that. They're so cute. They range from 2 all the way up to 15. So there's all kinds of stuff going on in the house. But I think you can learn a lot from children too. That's another reason why I like to go there. Being around kids and being in nature are my 2 favorite things. And I will admit, I do have, I am a shopaholic. I like to shop, but I'm trying to stay away from that right now.
This is, like I say, you have such an important message. Take care of yourself. Don't let yourself get burned out, because a lot of people need these PJs in their hands and they can't get them in their hands if you get burned out. So, like I said, I just wanted to, just to wrap things up. You've got such an amazing story, and I love how you used forgive. I don't forgive myself enough. I'm really bad about that. And I hold grudges with myself more than anybody. And that's always gotten me in trouble, or not in trouble. It's always made me unhappy. And so
it's hard.
I know. And just seeing how you've done it in your life, and how you've practiced that over time, and now you're glowing. You've got a great, I mean in that, in a lot of different ways, but you've got a great company with an amazing message, and you're helping so many people. And, I think it's amazing. So definitely thank you for inspiring me. And I hope, our listeners are inspired as well. So if anybody wanted to purchase themselves some of these amazing PJs, where should they go?
Well, our site is justinjeanpjs.com. We're also on Amazon. Some of the styles are on Amazon as well. But yeah, justinjeanpjs.com. And we're coming out with our, about September 15th begins pre-orders for our Christmas pajamas. They're really cute.
Perfect. And if there's anybody who's listening to this podcast episode who would maybe want to reach out to you and ask some questions, or even just get in touch and thank you, do you have a contact or an email or something, or a best way to reach you?
Absolutely. My email is info at justinjeanpjs.com. or you can instant messenger, instant messenger, listen to me, like Facebook messenger me, at Justin Jean Pajamas, and I can respond that way as well.
Okay, perfect. Well, again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Raj.
This was wonderful, and I hope everybody really appreciated Lauren. And so go get yourself some PJs. I will definitely be getting some. And so until next time, please everybody stay grounded. Thanks for joining us today on this episode of the Stay Grounded podcast, brought to you by Java Press Coffee Company. My name is Raj, and I hope you found this interview helpful as you create your own ways to make daily happiness a priority. If you're interested in learning more about how your morning coffee can turn into a consistent source of joy in your life, visit www.javapress.com to learn how our products can help you do that, and use the coupon code podcast for 10% off your purchase. Again, thanks so much for joining us. Stay grounded.